Okay, we're starting a new parak, a good vach, and as they say, a good winter. This is a Shana Rabbah night, the beginning of learning Torah. So it's a Shana Rabbah night, guys, and we're learning Torah. Okay, new parak. Hanoisi as the Isha, someone goes ahead and gets married. Upaski Ima, and he makes a deal with her. Kadeshe Yazan es Bita. It's not his daughter. What? I thought I muted everybody. It's not his daughter, but he makes a deal with this woman that he's going to go ahead and support the daughter for what? He's going to give a Muslim for 5 years. So it's his stepdaughter. He says he can give a Muslim for 5 years. Now, there's no chiddush in this case. Obviously, chiddush will be in the latter cases. So he's chayiv, but for 5 years to go ahead and support her. Niseis la'acher, if he marries someone else, in other words, he divorced his first wife, and he's married to somebody else. Upaski imoy, and he makes the same deal with the second wife. Kadesh yazin as bita chamesh shanim, chayiv lezoyna chamesh shanim. He has to go ahead and support her for it. So now he's got two chiyuvim, one from one stepdaughter and another stepdaughter. Lo yoma rishain l'chashetavay etzli. He can't tell the first wife. He can't tell the first daughter, right? He can't tell the first daughter, right? When she comes to me, I'll feed her. If Rashi tells us that it's the husband can't say that as long as he's married to this woman, right? Then I'll support you. So he married somebody else. The chiyuv to support this woman, this stepdaughter, is still in vogue, despite the fact he's no longer married to the mother. So the lashon is layomer harishain l'chshetava yetzli azayna ela moilech lemizaneha l'makam she'ima. She has to bring a food wherever what a mother is. In addition, he can't say it's a 5-year deal and I'll supply both of you as one. He gives one, he supports the other one, he gives demei mezainas. Nises, if the girl gets married, the stepdaughter gets married, the Baal supports her, and they give in the demei mezainas. This guy's going to go ahead, what? And the stepfathers, they go ahead and there's two stepfathers now, and they go ahead and they give demei mezainas. Mesu, if they die, the stepfathers, their own daughters only get from bnei chayrin. We said that they do not get from nechasim mishubadim. We said that one of the things that they made a tick in olam, since everyone has the mezainas, people would never go ahead and be involved with commerce. They never give loans out, and they never, because they would never buy karka, because they always lose their karka, because everyone has mezainas on them. So there's no mezainas mishubadim, but you would collect what from they would collect, their own daughters would collect from what? From bnei chayrin. However, he and the stepdaughter, she would be what? I think I learned before. I think the Nisa Stacha, there's two men who made the same deal with this one girl. I'm not sure I said this correctly earlier. This girl is lucky. Her mother married two men, and each man made the deal with her that to go ahead and give her mezainas. So therefore, in other words, you can't go ahead and have one guy say, "Listen, since you're only one person and you have mezainas for 5 years, we'll give you as one." And the one gives the mezainas, and the other one gives the main mezainas. Now they're both dead now. They're both dead now, and they had daughters from their wives. Their daughters would only get from bnei chayrin. They would not get from mishubadim. However, that girl, that lucky girl, since it was a chayv, it had nothing to do with mezainis. There was a deal they made. I'm going to be mechayiv. It's a chayv. A baal chayv collects mishubadim. So consequently, v'hini zainis menechasim mishubadim. This stepdaughter, she gets from she would even be able to be Torah from, if the land is sold, there's a lien on the land for her mezainis. If neishu kebalas chayv, as the Mishnah concludes, because she's a balas chayv. Now, this seems to be a very, very lucky thing for this, or serendipitous for this girl. But for the men, it seems to be like they're in a pickle, right? So the Gemara says, "Hapikchim," if they want to go ahead and be a pikeach. So in other words, I guess it would incentivize a woman to marry you if you're going to take care of her daughter, correct? That's why a person would get into the situation in the first place. Obviously, it's not your daughter. You're marrying a woman with a daughter. So to incentivize the marriage, you're going to say, "Listen, I'm going to take care of your daughter 5 years. Don't worry." So what's going to stop in the future him ending up in a situation where he's going to end up being a baal chayv? So you should say the following: Hapichim hayakoisvin. they were pikeach, a smart person, they would say, Al menashe ozen as bitech chameshanim, kol zman she'at imi. I'm giving you mezainis for 5 years on one condition, that you're with me. So watch. There's 3 ways she can't be with him. 1, if she's divorced. 2, if she's dead. 3, if he's dead. So in any one of those things, that would cover all possibilities that what you would not be about chayv. So Pikech would go ahead and make a tanai, and the tie would be, I'm not going to go ahead and support her forever, but conditionally, as long as you're with me, I'll take care of her. So if he's dead, no mezainis. If she's dead, no mezainis. And if it's divorced, there's no mezainis. Okay. The Gemara will now go into a shaila. It's not an easy Gemara. The Gemara will go into a shaila, and we're going to bring our Mishnah in to be paisha the shaila. So often the Gemara digresses and brings in the Mishnah to be paisha the shaila. Okay. So generally, when you have a shtar with Adam signed on something, then there's a chiyuv to pay. In other words, if Adam ksum al shtar, that's the bottom line. If a person has an IOU with his signature, he has to pay up, right? If a person, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, I owe you money in front of Adam, he has to pay up. Good? If he says in front of Adam, not a shtar, he says in front of Adam, you have to pay up. So 3 scenarios that you have to pay up. 1, if you have a shtar. 2, an IOU with his signature. And 3, even if he says in front of Adam. Okay, so let's see the Gemara now with that Hakdama. Itmar. A person says to his friend, I'm chayiv to you a mana, 100 zuz. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says he'd be chayiv to pay. Reish Lakish Amar pater, and Reish Lakish says he's pater to pay. Now, what exactly is the case? You have, again, if it's speaking there's a shtar or an IOU or edim, so the Gemara wants to know, hey chidami, Ida Amar luhu atem edai. If he says to in front of the people standing there, you're my edis that I owe him $100. My time Reish Lakish says you pater. Again, there's a Mefurish Gemara in Sanhedrin, right? In Sanhedrin is a Mefurish Gemara that I think it's Chaf. Rashi brings it. Where is the Gemara? It's in Chavtes, right? The Mefurish Gemara in Chavtes and Sanhedrin that you chayiv. So why would Reish Lakish say you pater? I say to Benji, I owe you $100. The 2 people standing there right now in front of the Zoom screen. I don't know $100. The Zoom screen. You have. You be Adam, you will be Adam that what? That I owe him, right? That I owe him. However, so what's the reason Reish Lakish say you pater? And if I just say to Benji, I owe you $100, my time to Rabbi Yochanan become a chayiv. Why would Rabbi Yochanan be mechayiv? What's mechayiv? You have no proof. There's nothing. It's just words. There's no kinyan. In other words, there's nothing here that's finalizing the fact that I owe money. So my man of Shach, the Gemara is grappling. What exactly is the case of the machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, where Reish Lakish says you pater, and Reish Lakish says you chayiv, and Rabbi Yochanan says you chayiv. So oilam deloy ka'amalahu atemedai. He didn't say atemedai. So what's the kash? So kash is on. So what's the svar of Rabbi Yochanan? If you didn't say the edim, so why would Rabbi Yochanan say you chayiv? But hachamay in the amalei chayiv ani lecham mana bishtar. And now there's a shtar. He says, "Chayiv li mana, I'm chayiv to you a mana," and there's a shtar. Now, l'chayra, if he says, "I'm chayiv to you mana," and there's a shtar, right? So why would you be pater? The answer is that there's no signature on the shtar. So Rabbi Yochanan machayiv alima milsa dishtara. The fact that there's a shtar, despite the fact there's no signature, kiman da amar luhu atem edai dami. It's the same as ata edai. In other words, the fact that there's more than just dibor, there's a shtar substantiated, it elevates it to the level of as if they're edis, right? Just as if the Gemara in Chavtes and Sanhedrin, if there's edim to his dibor, it would go ahead and make machayev. Who adin if there's a shtar, despite the fact there's no signature on it, there would be. And Reish Lakish says pater. Reish Lakish says you pater because lo yalima milsa d'shtara. It doesn't go ahead what and elevate it to that madrega. Now it's an important Rashi over here. Let's do the Rashi. He gave a shtar in front of us because of boy, and it's written in the shtar. I am chayiv to you 100. And here's the chiddush, guys. Even though it's his ksav yad, so therefore, why would Reish Lakish say pater? Since he didn't sign it, pater. It's in his hand, it's in his handwriting. I owe you $100, but he didn't sign it. Says Reish Lakish, you pater. That's the case. The machloikis is where there's a star without a signature. Good. V'hadit nan. We had this Gemara early in the Masechta, guys. V'hadit nan. Love ksav yadai shu chayev loy. If a man produces an IOU that says Yechayev, Goyvim in a Chasim b'nei Chayrin, so what's the difference? Why in Chaf Aleph do you collect and on Kuf Beit Aleph you don't? Says the Gemara, Kigoin Shechasim boy ani ploini lavisi mana mi ploini kidemukach beperka isha nisamla. I so and so borrowed money so and so, and what? And he signed it, guys. He signed it. The Omar Abaya. Lichtoiv chasimas yadei chasba, write your signature on a piece of an earthenware, aval megilta on a piece of parchment. Never write your signature. Period. Why? My timer. Dilma mishkach lei. Maybe a person will find a signature and they'll write in a whole typhus above it. They'll write a whole text above it and they'll have the signature on the bottom. V'tanan hoitzi lov ksav yadai yibichayev. Alma chasimas yadei kamairi. Aval hachi kasav lechayev ani lechamana v'lechasam bay. So very important, guys. An IOU with a signature, is gold. You can connect from Bnei Chayrin. An IOU without a signature is a machloikis, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says it's not as good as saying in front of Eidim, and Rabbi Yochanan says it's good as saying in front of Eidim. I just remembered a very, very famous Maisa. You know the Maisa? Guys, listen to this Maisa. I don't think I said it over when we learned the Gemara. I might have. I'm not sure. I did say it over. It says that you're not supposed to write your signature on a piece of paper because a person then can write above it whatever they want. Rav Chaim Kanievsky, had a stroke, and he had a procedure done, and they wanted to see after the procedure. They wanted to see how his cognitive functioning was. So they told him to sign his name, and he wrote an X. They asked him, "Why don't you sign your name?" He goes, "The Gemara in Kesuvos state Chaf Aleph, man, you shouldn't go ahead and sign it." I guess his cognitive functioning was good, right? The Gemara says you're not supposed to write a signature, so he didn't write a signature. He might just made an X. Very famous Maisa, Gewaldige Maisa. I guess he was ganz fine. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's the machlokas. So now we have the situation set up. We have a star. There's no chasima, but there's the edus. There's no edus, and the star states, "I owe you $100." Good. Says Rabbi Yochanan, you owe him $100, and says Reish Lakish, you potter. Okay. Says the Gemara Vayta. We're going to bring this in somewhere to our Mishnah. Tanan, hanoisi esa isha. Someone goes ahead. She marries a woman. Upaske imai. And makes a deal, Lozin Espita, to go ahead and support the daughter with Mazon, Chameshanim, 5 years. Chayiv L'Zoina, Chameshanim. Now, my love, Ki Agavna. It must be what? That he wrote it out, but he didn't sign it. Because if he did, there's no Chiddush whatsoever. In other words, when we began the Mishnah, I told you, it seems to be redundant. If you mechayev yourself, you chayev. So the Gemara is saying, you know what? There's got to be a chiddush over here. We know the Gemara never wastes words. Yes. So what's the chiddush? The chiddush is even though there's not a shtar with Eidim, even though there's not Eidim standing there when he said it, there is a shtar that he says, "I'm a chayev you," even though he didn't sign it. And if once you chayev, l'chayr it's a kash and Reish Lakish and a raya to Rabbi Yochanan that you chayev. The Gemara beautifully is asking, what's the situation where a guy is chayiv when he just, well, of course he's chayiv. Says a guy says to someone, you chayiv for 5 years, you chayiv for 5 years. It must be ki gavna. It must be speaking in this case where you wrote a star, kashan Reish Lakish. And for the Gemara, Amir Aleph, loy. We're dealing here with shtore psikta. We're dealing over here with the tanoyim. We're dealing with tanoyim. Tanoyim, they're getting married. Ki ucher Rav Gidol. Dom Rav Gidol, Amarav. Says of Gidl in the name of Rav. Hi, I'm in the middle of share. Okay, Mechel, I'm in the middle of share. I'm going to pick you up. Don't worry about it. Okay. 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 You get an address. Call Ruthie with the address. Okay. Okay. So now you have this is the chassan and the kala. They have a tanoim. Look at the top Rashi, guys. B'shtoi pesikta hachasim ma'akala poiskin tanoyim shebeinehem b'shnei edim va'edim choismin edis gemura. And that's what and Edis is speaking now. From Taimarim came Mailim members. What's the chiddush, guys? If you have a star saying that for 5 years I'm going to support. So what's the chiddush over here? It's the going the leka kinyan. There's no kinyan ela devarim. Bashmina Kurav Gil is going to see in a second. In other words, we know that anytime you seal a deal, you make a kinyan. You all got married, Baruch Hashem, and at the wedding, there was you makabel kinyan. So either it took off a dirty yarmulke, or they went and made you pick up a pen. That's a kinyan suder, right? You makabel kinyan. Over here, the chiddush is there was no kabbalah's kinyan, and nonetheless you chayav for 5 years. So it's not the mitzias of the case of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. It has no bearing on that whatsoever, because here you have a valid star. And the chiddush why that Yechayev is because why? Because of the fact there was no kinyan. Let's see what Rav Gidl says. Nam Rav Gidl, Amar Rav, Kama atanoisin lebincha. How much you're going to give to your daughter? Kach v'kach. Kama atanoisin to your son. Lebnecha to your son. Kach v'kach. Kama atanoisin lebitcha to your daughter. Kach v'kach. Amdu v'kitshu is mekadosh kana. Hein devarim aniknu b'amira. These are things that are kind of with amira without a kinyan, and that's the chiddush. Okay. But regarding our shaila, the machloikis, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, this does not go ahead and shadow any proof to either one. Okay, we go to a Mishnah in Bechoros. We know there's a din of Pidyon Aben, and we're dealing over here where a guy has a shtar chov that he owes the kohen. The guy has a shtar chov that he owes the kohen. He owes the kohen money, right? He has a shtar chov that he owes the kohen. He has a shtar chov. So what does it say over here? Tashma, kosav l'koyin. A guy writes the shtar chayv to a koyin. Shani chayiv l'cha chamesh sloyim. That's the amount that for pidyon aben is chamesh sloyim. So he writes, I'm chayiv to you 5 sloyim. Chayiv litin chamesh sloyim as a chayiv. Ubenoy ene padoy. He's chayiv to go ahead and pay up 5 sloyim, and his son is not redeemed. So what do you see from over here, right? Now, what's the case? Let's see. Tosfos tells us what the case is. It says Tosfos, the top Tosfos. We're thinking right now, why is this a kasha? The high chayev mishum, shenis chayev loy, he was chayev money to him, v'nishtabed al yedei hashtar, and he was mishtubin himself through the shtar, ulahachi benoy ein a padoy, and therefore the son is not what? Therefore the son is not redeemed. In other words, he wasn't using the chayiv that he owed the kohen to pay off this 5 sloyim. It was a separate chayiv in Gansen. It was a separate chayiv. Okay, it was a totally separate chayiv. Okay. Now, what's the shtar say? The shtar says, "I owe you money." Right? Shtar says, "I owe you money." And Pashtus was speaking. Must be there's no way to demand the shtar. What's the chiddush? So you still owe money, which would be a raya to Rabbi Yochanan and a kasha on Reish Lakish. Again, we have a shtar that I owe you money. It's not an IOU, right? Because again, there's no chiddush there, and nonetheless, he's chayiv to pay, and there's a separate halacha of b'nei and padai. Now, the fact that his son is not redeemed right now has no bearing on the shaila. Again, what do we want to extrapolate from here? Such a shtar without a signature that I owe you money will go ahead and you chayiv to pay the money. That's Rabbi Yochanan and not Reish Lakish. Good. And Tosfos says the havamina is that there's a shibud just on from the fact he owes the money. Now continues the Gemara. Okay, so we have a kasha now on Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, shiny hasam. It's different over there. You know why he owes him money? Because there's a shibud deraisa. There is according to Reish Lakish, the reason why it works over here is since he has a chiyuv to go ahead and be paid to the firstborn. Again, Hasal Kedaitach, he has a separate chayv. Now he's using this shtar not as a separate chayv. He's using the shtar to go ahead and be paid to the son. So l'chayra, the reason why he does owe the money is because there's a shibud on him to pay the kohen. So it's not, guys, Yankel and Fred in a separate scenario. You have the fact that he's a kohen and there's a ninate shibud to pay that elevates this shtar to pay. But in a regular hechatimsa, a regular IOU without a shtar, without a signature, says Reish Lakish not. So again, kasha on Reish Lakish from Pidyon Aben the star does work. Answers Rabbi Eish Lakish, the reason the star is working is because the shibud is to be paid to your son. That's why it works. But without that shibud, it wouldn't work. That's Fred Gemari Hachi. If you're telling me that the shibud makes him chayev, amai kosav, why would he go ahead and write it in the first place? In other words, he has to. In other words, there's a shibud without the star. The star is not making anything. It's the shibud. So why are you writing the star in the first place, right, guys? The star is not malu moirid. It's the shibud that does it. It elevates the star. So why is he writing a star? And he's writing the star to say you're the guy. Toysa speaks. There's a concept of makire kahuna, where again, when we like a kohen, we always say that he's going to get all my truma, right? This would help even the mokim that your makire kahuna. You always give your money to kohen X. This will be I want to give it to kohen Y. So you know as you memavara the kohen. So you're writing it. You're writing it to go ahead and designate it to this kohen. Now, that's a bigger question. So why isn't the son pada? If you're telling me it's a shibud, why is the son not redeemed? Right? Why is the son not redeemed? That's the next kasha. Why is the son not redeemed? So it says the Gemara Kidda Ula, the Ama Ula, the Vatoira pada l'chashiyitain. In fact, when he pays the money, he is pada. My time amru b'noya pada. What's the reason they said he's not? Is the gezerah. Shemayomru poida b'shtaris. Let me say we poida with a star. Okay, guys, let's say the following scenario. Chaim Klagsburn has a star that Eliezer Stern owes him $100, owes him 5 slayim. That's it. Just two Yisraelim. I owe money. He has a kohen. Well, we never have kahanim, and he says, "Listen, my grandson, my son, my grandson, I have to redeem him. Here's the star that Eliezer Stern owes you 5 slayim." In other words, this document is 5 slayim. The halacha is you can't be poida with a star. You can't be poida with karka. You can't be poida with a star. Let's say the kohen is a star that you owe the kohen the money, then you could, right? The reason why you can't be paid for the kohen is gezerah. You may can't be paid with Eliezer Stern. In other words, that's the reason. The shibud's the raisa and the star would work. Why? Because it's mamish geld. Because you owe the kohen. You owe the kohen, and this is. When does a star not work? When you give the kohen the right to collect the star from another person. That's the reason it doesn't work. But einachinami, it would normally work. So let's go over it again. Machloikis Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. By an IOU that's not signed. Says Rabbi Yochanan, it's equated to saying in front of Adam, I owe you money. And you'd have to pay. Says Reish Lakish, no. We're asking on Reish Lakish from kohen in the Mishnah in Bechayris. With what that you have to pay him 5 slayim and the burn's not paid. You have to pay the 5 slayim. It's speaking such a star without an IU. Says the Gemara, the reason is not the star, the reason is the shibud. Fed Gemara is the shibud, so the 5 should be paid. Says the Gemara, no. We're worried if you're going to go ahead and allow this scenario from the paid with azamin star, you may come to go ahead and be paid with a star that doesn't work at all. A star that's totally separate, nothing to do with the kohen. That would just give the kohen the right to collect from another person. We're going to that after that, and therefore it doesn't work. And so far, Reish Lakish has held serve, and everything is okay. Bobblehead, good. Very good. And the Phillies beat the Braves. Okay, weiter. Anyway, we'll say that a few times. My brother happy. He's a happy man. Look, Kenny, they're beeping the ones there in Philly, huh, Kenny? Okay, anyway. Says the Gemara weiter. New case. Tashma Kitanai. Says the Gemara, Amarabba Kitanai. Now, you might remember, I said the other night, if you're really listening, I gave you a formula when you want to go ahead and say that a machloikas amaroyim is a machloikas tanoyim. I said, you never want to get into that because one amor is going to come against one tana. And what's the formula I gave you? Al Karcha, the first one has no choice. He has to. It was Rabbi Eliezer. Shmuel couldn't agree with Rabbi Eliezer by Maisa Cotton. But we said that 1 second. But Rav could agree with Rabbi Yeshua. Remember, so the first one's always going to be a disagree. In other words, there's no way out. This Amorid argues in the Tana. But the second one we could work it out. I didn't know when I said it to you that we're going to have it a blot later. So a blot later, Imam is having the same formula, and it's very nice. It'll just buttress and reaffirm what I was trying to go over with you. So now we want to suggest the machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is a machlokes Tanoim, which again the Gemara does not like to do because al karchach. What are you going to say that one Amoira does not hold a katana, and no Amoira wants to disagree with a Tana, right? You want to come out of Kuli Alma. Says the Gemara Kitanoi, an Orev Hayoitza Acha Chisum Shtaros. Now you have a star. The star says so and so owes a person so and so. And you have Eidim signed. And afterwards, you have a guy saying, I guarantee it. That's what he says. But his guarantee is after the Chasimus Eidim. It's not above, it's after. So it wasn't that the Eidim signed on this Arev. The Arev is signed after the Eidim. Good? To what extent is this guarantor the Arev Chayev? To what extent is this guarantor this Arev Chayev? That's what the Gemara wants to know. So Arev Hayotza Acha Chisim Shtaros. You can collect from his free property. You can collect from his free property. You can't collect from his shubadim. And that beautiful guys. There's a very good limud. You can only collect from mishubadim when it's a milva b'shtar. When the halva, when the loan takes place in a document, a coil goes out. Be careful. Do not buy any fields from this guy because there's a lien on his property. If it's a milva al peh, if it's verbal, then it's not so publicized. So the person does not know to stay away from this person who this loiva, this borrower, right? So therefore, you can only collect from bnei chayrin. Since this arev is signed after the signatures, it's not a milva b'shtar, it's a milva al peh. Had he been signed above the signatures, then it will be a milva b'shtar. Since he signed below the signatures, it's no worse than a milva al peh, so you can collect from bnei chayrin. That's the chacham shita. And Maisa bal lifnei Rabbi Yishmael. The Omar Goy Rabbi Shmuel the Tana. Omar Goy Nechasim Bnei Chayrin. Amalei Ben Nanis said the Tana Ben Nanis. Ain't a Goy Vel Loim Nechasim Bnei Chayrin. Loim Nechasim Mishabadim. You don't collect from anything. You don't collect from anything. Amar Loi Lama. Why not? So Amar Loi Hari Shechaya Shechaya Chaynik Eskaveri B'Shuk. A guy comes along and he sees a malvet choking a loiva because he didn't pay up. You know, it's speaking metaphorically. Umatza chaveiroi v'amaloi hine loi v'anietin l'chapata. 1 second, hanach loi, leave him alone, and I'll go ahead and pay you. He's not chayiv, he's pata. Why? Shaloya alam nasai hilveyu. It wasn't on his, but in his trustworthiness that the deal took place. Good, guys. If the only reason this guy said leave him alone, right, is to get him off his back. When he lent him the money, this person who showed up in the street had nothing to do with the halva. So generally, when you have a cosigner, before the halva takes place, in other words, you go to the bank wants to know who is guaranteeing this collateral, where you know, so you have a mortgage on your house. In other words, that takes place before the transaction. You always have the guarantor in place. What does the shtar say? So and so, oh, so and so X, Eidim signed. And who signs after the Eidim? An Arev. Obviously, the Arev did not facilitate the loan because he's signing afterwards. So says Ben Nanis, it's the same thing as the case in the street. This guy in the street didn't go ahead and create the loan and allow the loan to take place. So who didn't? The Arev that signed after the Eidim didn't do anything. So we have machloikas between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Nanis. Says the Gemara, let's say now, Rabbi Yochanan holds that what? That a shtar, that even if without a Eidim on it, is what? Is a chiyuv. So this Arev is no worse than that. Rabbi Rish Lakish, who says that, no, it doesn't count with whole like Ben Nanis. So let's suggest that the machloikis Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is the machloikis between Rabbi Yishmael and Ben Nanis. Says the Gemara, Lema Rabbi Yochanan da'amak Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yochanan says a shtar, an IOU without a signature. So this shtar also does not have a signature. The Arev is after the signatures. Is what? Host like Rabbi Yishmael, and you can collect from Bnei Chayrin. Rish Lakish da'amak Ben Nanis. And Rish Lakish would hold like Ben Nanis. Just like Ben Nanis says that it's nothing, so too, a shtar, an IOU without a signature is nothing. Says the Gemara, now, what's my formula? Watch. I'll leave it to Ben Nanis, Kuli Amalei Pligi, Amid Beis, that what? That there's no way Rabbi Yochanan can hold like Ben Nanis. Guys, there's no way Rabbi Yochanan can hold Ben Nanis, right? But you're not locked into saying that Rish Lakish can't hold like Rabbi Yishmael. That's the same previous Gemara. Al Kachach Shmuel can't hold like Rabbi Eliezer, but you're not locked into saying that Rav can't hold like Rabbi Yeshua. Oh, remember this. This is it's a very good formula for a difficult limit all the time. So ki pligi, I'll leave it to Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel, that's obvious. Rabbi Yechon, just like Rabbi Shmuel says that the orev you can collect afterwards. Who then chayev by IOU without a signature. Reish Lakish, ad kan like come Rabbi Shmuel Hasam by the orev el the shayach le shibud deraisa. Guys, an orev is mishub himself deraisa. You really could collect from mishubadim in a regular case of an orev. So an orev being on a star, Rabbi Shmuel says, is a very wichtig thing. It's a very, very chashuv thing because shibud deraisa. Aval hacha, where a guy simply says, "I'm owe you $100," and it's written on IOU without a signature, like shayach shibud deraisa. It's not shayach shibud deraisa. So Reish Lakish could in fact come out according to Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, that's the end of the sugya. Again, we have machloikas. Let's go. Well, we should remember from the sugya an IOU without a signature is machloikas amaroyim, right? We want to say it's a machloikas tanoyim. Says the Gemara, you're not locked into saying it's a machloikas tanoyim. Ken sign Reish Lakish, who says Yipata would say by orev yechayev because an orev is a shibud. Mashenkin there's no shibud what by a person's IOU without a signature. We previously had mentioned the idea of tanoyim, where a person of two mechutanim get together and they decide, I'm going to give you this and I'm going to give you this. And the chiddush over there was, even though there's a star, there's no kinyan on the star, and it's nikna be'amira. And the Gemara Gufa is going to discuss this. Gufa, Amrav Gidlam Arab, Kama Atanoisein, how much will you give? Lebincha, kach v'kach, he says such and such. The Kama Atanoisein lebitcha, how much are you going to give for your daughter? The kach v'kach, he says X amount. Amdu v'kitshu, the kanu, and hein hadvarim hanikna ba'amira, without a kinyan chalipin. Amarava mistabra milsa derav, who says that it works, is bebitoi. Now, fellas, usually when a kinyan takes place, you get something for it. Usually a kinyan, you get something. You know, you're getting usually cash, you're getting toivas hana, you're getting something. So the Gemara now wants to suggest the following, that this must be speaking by a naira, because any money that is going to go to the father, says the Gemara. Says Rava, mistabra milsa derav bebitoi, right? That the words of Rav is speaking by bitoi naira, the kamati hana liyadei, because he gets hana from the actual kinyan. Avol bageres, but a girl who's 12 and 6 months, the leimati hana liyadei, she's in her own jurisdiction, and you're not going to get. Loi. Kim says Rava, lashon of shvua, Amar Rav, afilu bageres. Rav says even by a bageres. Why? You just explained by naira why the father of the girl would get. What about the father of the chassan? It's a two-way street over here, right? You need a kinyan both ways. Avi aben, the father of the groom, my hana asliyade. What hana does he get? Ella must be by he hana the kamischatne adadi. Hana that each one are accepting each other as mechutanim. You're accepting my daughter. You're accepting my son. Gamriu makni adadi. So therefore, and that applies by a baigeris as well. It has nothing to do with what you receive. It's no physical. The hana, in other words, the hana over here is not a tangible hana. It's hana of this person wants to marry me. So that would apply by a baigeris as well. These words that of this tanoim should be written down, or it shouldn't be written down. What would the nafka be? Right? Would you be able to collect? If you write it down, you can collect from mishubadim, right? Or if not written down, you can't. So Amalei, so he said, Ravashi said to Ravina, you don't write these things down. It's a agreement that they made verbally, but you don't write these things down, right? Eseve, Ravina said, we said the people who were smart, what would they write? They write, I'm giving the money, right? We said that's what you write down. Now, the chayra right means it's mashma. This is we said Stein on Mishnah, guys. What's it speaking about? This case. It's speaking about a tanoim, where a guy's agreeing to take care of the daughter for 5 years. And it's mashma, he has to write it down. It says, my kaisvin is oimim. When it says right, it doesn't mean right, it means oimim, you say. Fred the Gemara, Amira Ksiva. Do we call Amira Ksiva? No, all of a sudden we're changing. In other words, it says Kaisvin. You're telling me it says writing? It says in. Yeah, I'll prove to you that sometimes Ksiva means Amira. Where will I prove it to you? But Tanan, it's a Mishnah. HaKaisav the Ish, if someone writes to his wife, Dinu Devorim Einli bin Achsayich, right? She write, I have nothing to do with your property. Good. And we said that he can go ahead and he can eat in her lifetime, he's able to eat the mezainis, the peiris. The Tani Reb Chia, when it says Kaisvin, ha'omer le'ishta, you don't say Kaisvin, you say oimer. So you see that Kaisvin means Amira. So in our Mishnah, where it said you're writing down, if you're Bikeach, it doesn't mean you write it down, it means you say it. And these are the things that are nicknamed Amira, and you wouldn't have to support her for 5 years unless she's with you. So if she dies or you die or she dies, you don't have to do it. Okay, we're going to ask a question on Ravashi. Again, Ravashi says you don't write it down. Toshma, ain't kaisvin shtori erisim v'nesuin. You don't write down shtori erisim v'nesuin elim midashneim. They both have to agree. Both the chassan and the kala have to agree. Hamidashneim, but when you have dashneim, is kaisvin, you would write it. My love shtori pesikta is not speaking about the tanoim. They both agree. Says the obvious answer. We're not speaking about the shtar tarna. We're speaking about the shtar the kinyan. Ha'ish niknis b'shleisha derachim b'kesev shtar ubia. We're speaking about the shtar of kinyan. We're not speaking the shtar of tanoim. So loy shtari erisim amish, and they both have to agree. Kidirav papa v'rav sharavya. The itmar kasvu lishma ushleimi daita. If you wrote a shtar erisim for the lishma for this woman, but she doesn't know about it. Rabbi Ravina Army Mikudeshes, she's Mikudeshes if you use it. Papa Rav Sharavya Army ain't a Mikudeshes. She's not Mikudeshes because she has to have what? She have to have her das, and you don't have it. Okay? So again, Rav Ashi says you don't write down the Tanoim, you don't write them down. We challenged him twice. He was successful 2 times in the challenge. The first time he said Ksiva means Amira. The second time he says it's not speaking about a shtar of Tanoim, it's speaking about a shtar of Kinyan. A third chance. Tashma, Mesu. Our Mishnah said if the two they die again, there were 2 stepfathers, and they both said they're going to go ahead and support this girl for 5 years. Mesu, if they both die, their own daughters only get from Bnei Chayrin. But the stepdaughter, she's going to get from Mishubadim, because she's a Balas Chayv, and Pashtus, she's a Balas Chayv, it must be she has what? She has a shtar. So you see, you do write it down. Again, this is speaking about, guys, the Mitzias of the whole Mishnah is speaking where it was by the Tanoim, you decided you can support for 5 years. And now you're telling me if they die, it's a shtar, it's like a chayiv, and therefore you have to go ahead and mishubadim. So it must be there's a shtar. Says the Gemara, no, Hachamay Eskinon, it's a Kasha Ravashi who said you don't need a shtar. Says the Gemara, no, Hachamay Eskinon was speaking to B'shekanim Yadai. They're speaking of those case they gave what? Mamash a kinyan. They did a kinyan, and a verbal commitment with the kinyan is you can collect from Mishubadim. Yihachi says the Gemara B'nais Nami. If he's speaking as a kinyan, why his own daughters only connect from Bnei Chayrin and not Mishubadim? Says Gemara B'shekana Lezu. It's speaking made the kinyan for the stepdaughter like Kana Lezu, but they didn't make the kinyan for their own daughters. Or my paska. Why would you generalize and say that? That you make a stepdaughter, you make a kinyan for the other one not, right? L'chayr doesn't make any sense. It says the Gemara Ihi by the stepdaughter, the Have B'shas kinyan. She was alive at the time of the kinyan, so therefore she was alive. You make a kinyan. Mahani le kinyan helps. Bonois, the girls who weren't born yet, play Havi B'shas kinyan. They weren't born at the time when the parents got married. Le mahani le kinyan. Therefore, a kinyan doesn't help. Okay. Therefore, a kinyan would help. Says the Gemara, Milo yaskinon the Havi B'shas kinyan. Can't be speaking about these girls were there. The Hechi Dami going to Girsha when you went ahead and you divorced her, and then after the daughters were born, so they were there, they were alive. The Hajra, and then you took her back. So if you divorced and you took her back, the daughters can be there, B'shas the kinyan. So why would the daughters not collect from Mishubadim if there's a kinyan the same way the stepdaughter collects Mishubadim? So therefore we're stuck. Ella, what do you have to say? Ihi, another teretz. Ihi, the stepdaughter, the lesser B'tanai Bezdin. She's not supported by Tanai Bezdin. This is only the girls, his own daughters, supported by Tanai Bezdin. Mahani la kinyan, the kinyan helps. Banois, the girls who the Isnu B'tanai Bezdin, who's supported by Tanai Bezdin, loy mahani la kinyan, the kinyan doesn't help for, and that's why they only collect from b'nei chayrin, not mishubadim. Again, we're questioning why the daughters only get b'nei chayrin if there's a kinyan, and the answer is because they have Tanai Bezdin, and mishubadim, she doesn't have a Tanai Bezdin, she collects mishubadim. Nigra gara. Why are they weakened just because of the Tanai Bezdin? If anything, it should be stronger. Ella, in other words, so we reject that as well. Ella, it must be bin noisav hainu time. What's the reason they only get what from b'nei chayrin? Kim in the isnu b'Tanai Bezdin, since they're supported by Tanai Bezdin. Emet srari atasinu. I'm worried that what? Remember, it's that the father had go get and gave them money. He gave them money before they died, and therefore, anytime you're worried that they gave money before they died, they don't collect from mishubadim. Hashenkin, the stepdaughter, you're not going to give money to, and that's the difference between the two. Okay, Bez Hashem, share will probably be tomorrow morning at some time.